my neighbor had used my hose to fill his pool up this spring. I sat down and thought about it for a little while, and I came up with the best solution in the world. Him and his wife left for one weekend to go to the beach over Daytona. And he leaves a hose in the pool all the time. And the other end of that hose is hooked up to a spigot about 2 feet from our property line. So when they left, I unhooked that hose from the spigot, hooked it to my hose, went down to the street to the storm sewer, and started siphoning it. And I let it go. Well, that's a lot of water to move. It takes a good bit of time. So I started it Friday evening, and by Sunday morning, Sunday early, it was empty. Well, he comes back Monday, and I had taken the hose and put everything back. Couldn't tell. He called a pool guy in to try to figure out, where all the water went. And this guy's looking everywhere. I've got great footage of this pool guy walking around going, oh! A neighbor keeps trying to get me with his back and forth crap. But what he doesn't understand is he's an amateur and I'm a professional. I wrote the book on this passive aggressive, nasty stuff. It's great. And I started noticing all of a sudden our mailbox is clear full of junk mail every day. Adult toy ads and wedding dresses and detergent samples, candy, you name it, it's there. So obviously, he's been putting us on mailing lists. Amateur. I listed him in the local community parade of homes. Now what this is you're supposed to host an open house. It's a showcase of the finest homes in our community, which his is not. So when people show up, you let them go through, let them out in the yard, let them look at your landscaping, show them your decor, that type of thing. And the thing is, nobody checks beforehand. You just pay the entry fee, and your name and address is on a list, and they give people maps, and they drive around town all day looking at homes. Well, on the day of, the first group of people that showed up was a bus full of retirees from the local Baptist church. And they line up, walk up, and the first one knocks on the door. Well, my neighbor opens the door, and they just file right in, one right after the other. The chaos really didn't get kicked off until more cars started pulling up, dropping people off. There was a line. At one point in time through the afternoon, I saw the mayor of our city in line out in front of his house. And my neighbor didn't have any choice but to roll with it. What else are you going to do? You can't start running everybody off. Well, by late in the day, I noticed him and his wife are looking pretty haggard. I'm sitting over at my house laughing, going through this week's haul of junk mail. My neighbor and I keep going back and forth with each other, and there's no love lost, and the gloves are definitely off. I have this big, overgrown maple tree that sits about 5 foot from our property line. So, of course, a bunch of the leaves hang over, the limbs and everything hang over the fence and into his yard. And every year, when the leaves start falling, he starts whining. They're as big as a man's hand, huge ones. And I noticed this spring, none of the branches or limbs overhanging his yard grew any foliage at all. None. So he sprayed something on them. And now there's some type of browning disease working its way back over my way, and it's eventually going to kill the whole tree. So I'm not taking something like that sitting down. And he's got this row of shrubs just on the other side of our fence. And they're about chest high, real nice ornamentals. He's always trimming them, fertilizing them, all this good stuff. But they run the whole length of his property along that whole fence. So I ordered 1,000 ladybugs and had them delivered. And what I did is just went over the fence one evening and dropped them by the handful down onto those shrubs. And it took me 2 nights to get them all out because 1,000's a bunch. and they went to work eating. I heard him a couple days later out there. Oh, my shrubs! They're everywhere! My next door neighbor likes to show up at city council meetings and act up. I learned this the other day when I was watching the local news and saw him being dragged out of the council meeting by the cops. They banned him from ever coming back. I guess he had, it's trying to get him to pass some kind of ordinance saying I had to take my fence down. It was all about our fence dispute. Well, when the mayor told him that's not how the system works, he flipped out. Took all the paperwork he had with him and threw them at the city council and the mayor. Told him he was going to run for mayor in the next election, and when he won, he was going to turn all them out of office. You know, just losing his mind at him. See, he claims that my fence is 3 inches over on his property. And I had a surveyor come look at it and say, his fence is actually 3 inches over on mine. So it's one of those back and forth situations. And so as they're dragging him out, he's yelling real loud, I'll be back, I'll be back. So I spent that afternoon printing out, collating, and FedExing him all the paperwork he needs to run for mayor of our city in the next election.